Could we also agree? Should I definitely wear the hat? Or
Guys,
not
what do
wear
you
the
think?
hat?
Would you like to see?
Huh?
Hat? No hat.
I like the hat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Abbie. Today is episode number 11, featuring a woman that I've had the privilege of learning from already in my short time as an entrepreneur. So I'm so thrilled to take the conversation beyond watching her at a panel and into the tea party today. Let's give it up and welcome Jess Gaffney.
Hello, thank you.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Shout out to Capital Factory for our tea, of course. And welcome to the tea party.
Thank you.
I noticed you indulged me and brought a tea hat with you.
I did. You requested it, and I immediately thought of this hat. It is my mother-in-law's wedding hat. Yeah, or as my kids call her, Booby.
That's amazing.
Yes, she wore it about 40 years ago.
Wow.
Yes.
It looks like it was worn about 40
Yes,
years ago.
it does. I don't think it's been worn since. So,
well, thank you for bringing a tea hat.
Yes.
And, this is The Tea, the show where we talk about what it's been like to start a company for the first time, what my experience and my co-founder's experience has been like in this accelerator program. We're here for the next year. And then also that third kind of layer on this whole new space I'm in is what it's like to be a woman in this and navigate the world. And yeah.
all topics close to my heart. Yes.
I'm so excited you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
Your current position, or that sounds really formal.
I'm going to put
what
my
you're
hat
currently
on
doing.
so I join you.
Yes, please do.
Yes.
That looks great.
Okay.
Tea.
Tea. Yes.
That one class you said from NYU is coming back right now for acting. Okay, so I'm welcoming Jess, who's currently CEO and Executive Director at Women at Austin. Right. And can you tell us about what that is and what you do?
Sure. So Women at Austin is an organization in town that advances women entrepreneurs that are striving to grow their companies. So we support women entrepreneurs. We do that. We have 4 pillars: knowledge, connections, capital, and a growth mindset that we focus on. And we have really wonderful programming that supports them on their journey through growing and scaling.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is your most favorite aspect of your day-to-day?
Really working and meeting and engaging and helping women entrepreneurs. I have a lot of heart for it. I'm a women entrepreneur myself. And, I think that women have such potential to lead and grow large companies. And so it's really wonderful to, help in that process.
Are the women that you're working with local to Austin?
Yes. Yes. Cool. Our hope is that we will really figure out exactly what how we're helping women entrepreneurs to be most effective in Austin, and then we'll scale it beyond Austin. Yeah.
How old is the organization?
So the organization has been around for 5 years. It was started by a woman named Jan Ryan in town, a serial entrepreneur that was very involved actually with Capital Factory. She's wonderful and really just saw a need for support for women that were trying to grow companies. And so she kicked it off with a steering committee of 25 really successful women in Austin. They got together for 5 years. They put on incredible programming. They did monthly roundtable events, venture dinners where they addressed the lack of connections women have with investors. They did South by Southwest programming. And then about a year ago, Jan moved on and is now at UT. She's leading the entrepreneurship school at the design school. And she really wanted it to continue to grow and live on. And that's when Women at Austin joined the Notley umbrella, or the Notley family, I should say. And Notley is a social impact investment firm. And they invest in both for-profit and nonprofit entities, really to help scale impact. And so Women at Austin is one of their nonprofit entities that they support.
Wow.
It's I joined about 5 months ago, and it's been an incredible journey. Yeah.
Wow. A fun story about Jan Ryan, actually.
Yeah.
On the day we pitched to get into the accelerator,
Yeah.
We were called up first because B for blended.
It's the curse of B.
Right? I'm used to it, though, because my name starts with an A, and now my last name starts with a B as well. But so we were first. I pitched. It went well. The stakes were so high. I sweated so much.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Lots of sweating.
dehydrated.
Yeah.
I had a headache. And after you have some feedback from, it's like a quick rapid fire
nice. Yeah.
feedback from the investors and everyone in the audience. And the first person we sat down with was a gentleman who was a bit brash in his delivery of
his feedback.
Constructive feedback. It was valuable, but it hit us so hard.
Yeah.
And fortunately, Jan was also sitting with us at the table. And I just appreciated how she could tell we took that hit really heavy, and she found a way to give us equally as constructive feedback, but just it was so much more optimistic and made us feel like we were going to walk out of there successful, and we were coming out on top that day. We didn't need to feel defeated for this one thing that got pointed out and highlighted in the grand scheme of everything we've been working on. And she had just...
Oh, that's such a lovely
presence.
Story.
I know.
I have to. Is it okay if I pass it on to her?
Oh, please do.
Yeah, Jan is really wonderful in so many ways.
We
And
recall that moment often.
Oh, wow. That's really beautiful.
And I think that, to me, walking into Capital Factory as a first-time founder, I kind of respond really well to that sort of more empathetic,
yes,
sensitive kind of touch. And Jan had that for me that day.
I think it's honestly a superpower that women have. Obviously, that's a generalization. Not every woman has it, but most women tend to be very empathetic, especially women founders. Yeah. They've been there. They know what it's like. They know how it's, you're working on growing your baby. And when someone insults it and gives really harsh feedback, that can be really hard to swallow. So I think women, really can sort of think of themselves in the other person's shoes and therefore have a lot more impact.
Sure.
Like you think a lot more about her than you do about the gentleman that didn't deliver it well. So that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the first value of our business, actually.
Oh.
And I think because
it's empathy?
Is empathy. I think because we're in the creative space and we're working with business owners who are putting like everything out on the line to bring their product or service to life. You're working with freelancers who are putting themselves out there to follow their passions. And then, we're telling stories. And so, I think empathies are superpowered. I
think that's really smart because I think also empathy means that you understand your customer.
Right.
And that's really the key to success in your business, in every business.
Right, exactly. And take the time and listen to the other person across the table.
What they need.
Wow. Well, I do want to come back to some more specific initiatives that women in Austin are working on. But I'm kind of curious, you as you're a builder yourself and an entrepreneur, I'm curious as to what's your journey been like to take you to that 5 months ago when you accepted your role at Women at Austin?
It's been an interesting journey, yeah. So I think I mentioned earlier, I'm from New York. I went to college in D.C., but then I lived in Manhattan for about 14 years. And before moving here about 6 years ago. Yeah, yes. New York. Yes. I started my career in fashion, actually. And I worked with my best friend on starting a collegiate clothing line. And that was my first sort of toe dip into entrepreneurship, besides my babysitter's club when I was a teenager.
Right. And it didn't turn you away.
It's interesting. I now looking back, I learned so much from that experience because I think, it failed. And one of the reasons it failed is because, of the licensing agreements. And it just didn't make sense to grow a company and put money in when you really had no control over the licenses. And we saw that right away. But it was such a shameful experience for me. And for a long time, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to share about it. And it really prevented me from going after other entrepreneurial pursuits for a while. But then fast forward with my latest one, and that's not Women in Austin, but it's a company called ProMama.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
I did an amazing accelerator program in Austin called Div Inc., which focuses on women and people of color. And, I learned so much during that. But I think the thing that I learned the most, and now looking back realized, is that, first of all, almost every successful entrepreneur has failures, right? It's how you learn. It's a part of the journey. But also that it was such a good opportunity for me to learn and figure out where to go next. And, just to have that mindset shift has made all the difference. So, anyway.
It's a simple mindset.
Yes.
That mindset just triggered a domino effect of what the rest of
100%
your life was going to be like.
Exactly. So anyway, going back, I have 8 years of for-profit experience, and then I felt like my soul was dying and did a total 180 and went to the nonprofit sector, specifically in sustainable food. I worked for an amazing grassroots organization in New York called Just Food, and I did all their marketing and events.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Are you still passionate about sustainable living?
Yes. I'm really, one of the exciting things about moving here is that I could have my own garden.
Right.
Yeah. Space, exactly. So then I had my, I got pregnant with my second child. And when I had my first, I really, I struggled, and I realized how challenging it was for women to find high quality, flexible work. And that the whole system, the way work is set up, does not accommodate for mothers, really, or parents in general, not just mothers. There's just so many issues with having a child and where that takes you in your career. So when I had my second, I decided to leave and start ProMama. And essentially it was to help women find high quality, flexible work and help companies address talent needs that they had.
Right.
So I worked on that for 2 years, and that was an incredible learning experience. And
were you a sole founder going through that?
No, I had a co-founder.
Okay.
Abigail Rose was my co-founder. She's amazing. And we were in the same life stage. Honestly, it sounds cliche, but I brought her the idea on the playground when our 2 kids were running around in different directions. And she was like, I'm in, let's do it.
Brilliant.
She totally could relate. And so we really followed the lean startup model. We just threw up a website and saw okay, is this going to stick? And it was 100 women signed up, 400 women signed up, 600 women signed up, literally without us doing anything. It was a newsletter that we started out with.
Wow.
And we tried all different models and really never found the product market fit that I wanted. And Abigail also got an amazing opportunity to join Facebook. So she moved into an advisory role right after we finished Div Inc. And so I was sole for a bit. I tried working with another potential co-founder who was also wonderful, and it just wasn't the right fit either.
Right.
And that's kind of when I was sort of at this crossroads, and that's when I had my first conversation about this role at Women in Austin. And, it was not something I was looking for, but it just, I had the first meeting, I was like, that sounds amazing. And then 6 meetings later, I'm like, I need to be honest with myself. I really want this role. And I just love the community building factor and supporting women in this way.
How did the role find you?
It's funny. I was on a walk and talk with another woman entrepreneur. We would walk around Lady Bird Lake and talk about company issues and scaling and ask each other questions. And she's so lovely too. And we don't even know each other that well. And she had a breakfast with Dan Graham. Dan and Lisa are the founders of Notley. That morning, and she said that he shared the role with her and she wasn't interested. She's building her own company, but she just thought of me immediately and would I be willing to meet with him? And I had met Dan a couple times through Sustainable Food Center because he does a lot of nonprofit work. But, you know, I was like, sure, why not? And yeah, we had a great first meeting and then it turned into a lot more. And I was like, you know what? This is my journey right now. And it was really cool too because someone said to me, because I was feeling kind of down about, you know, I really had to scale back ProMama because I just could not physically do both.
You only have so much time in a day, especially you're raising children also.
Exactly. So, you know, making that decision was really hard, but absolutely the right one for me. And someone said to me the other day, which I just loved, was that maybe the whole point of building ProMama was to get you to this role. Like that's, you know, maybe that's was the point of it.
Right.
And I just really liked that a lot. So yeah, I'm loving this new role. So
cool.
Yeah.
Do you think that you'll ever get the itch and start a business
Absolutely.
again? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like it's in your blood or something.
What did your the people around you who raised you, what were they doing?
I think about this often. So no one that that was in my life growing up was a sort of 9-to-5 worker. My mom is she was retired now, but she was an elementary school librarian for 38 years. So of course, you know, she had a consistent job, but you know, she was like off during the summers and, you know, she didn't have that corporate job. And then my dad was an entrepreneur. And I grew up very close to my aunt and uncle, and my aunt was a Spanish teacher and my uncle was an entrepreneur. So it just always seemed like it never felt right being in like a corporate job.
Right.
I remember I walked into Estee Lauder when this is during my for-profit years in New York City, and 10 minutes in, I was like, this is not for me. Like wrong, not right. Every part of my body was like, and it was like a great job and I got like double my salary and I was just like, it's just not for me. So.
I worked 1 month in the sales department at New York sports clubs.
Yep.
It was between us moving here and me trying to figure out what the heck was going on. I was like 2 or 3 years after college. Yeah, I worked about 3 weeks.
Sounds about right.
And that was as far as I made it.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do this.
Yeah.
But because like you, I've been finding in my conversations with people who take risks that they grew up in a environment where risk taking was normalized and was exciting, and you know, the challenges weren't ever determinents. They were like the things you should be running after.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And I, you know, I'm grateful to my parents too, because unlike what we see out in the world with women versus men, you know, entrepreneurs, the perspective of, you know, that a man, let's say, could grow something really large and a woman might struggle doing that.
Right.
That's not how I was grown up with, you know. I was sort of definitely given the confidence, and, you know, anything I pursued was enthusiastically accepted. So I feel really grateful for that.
Did you grow up in a home where you were reading a lot? If your mom was
I did.
librarian?
Yes.
That's great.
Yes. My mom's license plate is book nut.
That's sweet.
Yes.
Yes. We actually have strange similarities.
Oh, yeah?
My mother is a reading specialist.
Okay, yeah.
She's actively working. She went back to school when I was in 6th grade.
Awesome.
And yeah, I remember as a kid, she always had a gig. She was an artist and stopped doing graphics when, you know, they started a family, but always taught me the value of providing for yourself and have your own bank account and your own savings and your own means, because she saw what her mother had gone through, right? And so, yeah, she went and got side jobs, and then she went back to school.
She had the hustle.
And she's a reading specialist, couple years away from retirement.
Awesome.
Mom, you're doing great.
Yes.
Hang in there. You're close. But reading was so important growing up.
Same. Yeah. And, you know, for me too, and I try to sort of do this for my kids too. It wasn't just like my mom telling me I needed to read and that was important. She sort of taught by doing.
Right.
So she just really loved it and enjoyed it and prioritized it. And that was great to
Trickle
see.
down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, I feel that you covered some questions that I always like to ask in that journey. And, you know, kind of the questions about a hard lesson and what was your favorite moment. But you've gone through businesses that didn't work out, and then it's led you to this unbelievable opportunity in an incredible time for women right now. So if you don't mind, are we cool to transition to the present?
Let's do it.
Amazing. So there's a lot that has transpired in about the past 2-ish years in the feminist movement, right? And what stands out to you is where you're seeing like hope and inspiration right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just have to go back to women entrepreneurs, of course. I just see incredible, capable, intelligent women with a ton of potential that are super passionate about growing whatever company they're growing. And the numbers are there too. Like in this about 1975, there were like 400,000 women-owned companies, and now there are 12 million. Like the growth is happening. Women of color are the fastest growing segment. I think they grew over 163% since 2017. So that to me is super inspiring. The reality, unfortunately, we have a long way to go. I mean, total private sector revenue is less than 5%.
Wow.
Total private workforce is less than 10% women-owned. So we have a long way to go. To me, also, one of the biggest stats that stands out that inspires me is that 88% of women-owned companies make less than $100,000 a year. So what I ask myself is, are those women making a choiceful decision about they want to keep a small business? And that's wonderful. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But the more important question are like, what percentage of those women want to grow but have barriers and they're not growing because of those barriers?
What do you most common find are the barriers?
Yeah, so so when I joined 5 months ago, we did focus groups with about 60 women entrepreneurs, and we narrowed down the barriers into 4 buckets, and those are now our pillars. Knowledge. So we found that financial knowledge was probably the number one piece, but that wasn't the only piece. It was marketing, sales, really across the board, just knowledge that maybe they didn't have. I think women are also just much more willing to admit when they don't have the knowledge, frankly. So knowledge is one.
Just ask.
Yeah, exactly. Knowledge is one. Connections is 2. So that's connections with other women entrepreneurs or other entrepreneurs in general. It's connections with investors, connections with professional service providers that they trust, like a lawyer, accountant, that kind of thing. And then number 3 is capital. Of course, that was number 1 by far. They need capital to grow their companies, and it's really hard to get. And so we're trying to help in that piece. And then 4th is a growth mindset. And that one is super interesting to me. We actually started with 3 and then added growth mindset because it was basically like woven into every conversation we had, either directly or indirectly. And, I really believe that like a big part of it is making sure that women feel like own the potential that they have because that holds them back. I remember when Ariel and I were having a conversation very early on when we started ProMama about, okay, like what do we want to do with ProMama? Do we want to sell it? Do we want to build it and run it ourselves for years? Like we should know what we both want so that we can make smart decisions along the way based on that. So we both agreed we would want to sell it. So we were like, okay, cool. And then Ariel turns to me and she's like, can you imagine if we sold it for $100,000? And I was like, it was such like a moment for me because I was just like, Ariel, like you are one of the smartest people I know. You're so capable. Like you're so creative and talented. Like why aren't you saying 100 million? Why aren't you saying 1 billion? Like when we're dreaming, why not saying 100 billion?
Yeah.
Like at that point, that was like, that's to me like epitomizes that growth mindset. Like you need to be able to think that big. And if you don't, it trickles into every conversation you're having, to every interaction you have, to every conversation you have with a potential investor. They sense that. They need to believe in the founder, the co-founders. So that's part of that is believing in yourself, and that's where the growth mindset comes in.
Right, and that's something that our male counterparts do naturally is kind of carry themselves with that bigger bravioso, and they talk the big talk.
Yes.
But in what are some things that a woman could do? Not just a woman, but maybe someone who's doesn't see themselves in the boardroom very much. So women of color, just across the spectrum of kinds of business owners. What are some of the things we can do to cultivate growth mindset?
Yeah, it's a really good question. What I've seen work really well for women is community. So getting involved in any sort of community where women can build each other up. I find that they really respond well to peers giving them confidence. I just saw this. We just finished our fundraising boot camp, which is a 4-part series where we help women to learn all about fundraising, raising capital. And it was amazing to see the camaraderie and support that women provide for each other. And, just having a group of women say, wow, that pitch was amazing. I mean, it's like you could see the physical difference. So I would say community is 1. 2 is practicing. So listen, like fundraising, growing a company, all that stuff, it is really hard, like for anyone.
Right.
It's not easy. Like most businesses fail. So I think also understanding that kind of thing, like that, I tell women often, like, go get 50 no's, because then you can look at it like, okay, great. I got 1, I got 2, I got 3 versus, I got 1.
Right.
I got 2. Like, it beats you down. And if you look at it like, yeah, that's the expectation because men get the no's too.
Right.
But I don't think it's clear, especially if you're a first-time entrepreneur, for anyone really.
Sure.
So I think, understanding that this is really hard and that you're going to get really tough feedback and you're going to have really hard meetings sometimes, and you're going to get no's and you're going to get maybes that turn into no's that are really hard too because you thought they were maybes were turned into yeses. So knowing that, I would say 3, like, preparation, practice, what I was saying before. I see that women seem to gain a lot of confidence if they have actually practiced and go through the motions. So, that can be done with anyone.
Right. Right.
And, it takes a long time to figure out how to talk about your company, even if you really believe in it.
It does.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
That
and
1
answering
minute
questions
pitch is like the hardest thing ever to figure out.
It's super hard. So practice. And I find that women are just often more prepared in general. So, and just much more buttoned up and eager to learn all aspects of the business. Right. So I think if they have those sort of tools in their tool belt, they feel a lot stronger.
Yeah. There's this actress I admire, Bryce Dallas Howard, and she talks about how when she set out on her career, she started counting how many no's it took for her to get a yes.
Yeah.
And so that way she knew, okay, I have to get 40 no's to get 1 yes.
Exactly.
And then that 40 no's turned into I have to get 30 no's to get 1 yes, and then 20 no's to get 1 yes, and then 10. And then now I'm in a position where I can pick and choose where I want to work.
Yes.
And so those no's are just so important.
Super important.
And nothing to be afraid of. And I lean into that here because I know on a weekly basis I'm auditioning and getting no's constantly.
I think being an actress is actually a wonderful experience for running a company.
It feels
You can face rejection much
Yeah.
easier. It's just you have you're wearing your armor
Yep.
all the time.
Yep.
And if you don't have armor and you start out and it's just chipped away at, it can get really defeating. And you need to come across as confident and capable, because that's honestly mostly how investors make a lot of their decisions.
That's women in
about
Austin in a nutshell, right? Going to learn how to put on your armor and prepare for battle.
Yeah. That growth mindset is woven in between, all of the knowledge and information that you really need to back it up. I mean, you need to have the numbers, you need to have the traction.
Right.
But the growth mindset needs to be there too.
Yeah. Are there any initiatives coming up for 2020 here in Austin you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so many. So we have 4 main programs. We have our roundtables, and those are either lunchtime or early evening 2-hour events where we usually have a featured speaker, women founder, or someone, a subject matter expert that talks about a certain topic. We have Q&A, and then we break out into roundtable discussions to have more intimate conversations. We also have our venture dinners where we, I think I mentioned earlier, address the lack of connections and relationships that women have with investors. Most investors know the founders for an average of 12 to 18 months before they make an investment decision. So you really need to get started early in creating those relationships before you actually need the capital. And then we have our office hours with purpose, which essentially addresses the need for women to have mentorship moments. So what we heard a lot was, I really need help with this specifically, or I need help with this. So we pre-match women founders with mentors so that they can come together and specifically work on a problem that they have. It's essentially helping them address the needs they have and allowing for mentors. We have an amazing advisory council of 45 incredible people that come in and act as our mentors. And it allows them to scale and help as many women entrepreneurs as they can.
Wow.
And then we have our fundraising boot camp, which I'm really psyched about. We just ended our first one, and it was really successful. We had 20 women entrepreneurs join us for 4 evenings. It sold out in less than a week.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And it ended in a little mini elevator pitch night, VIP reception. And we, it's been awesome seeing they're going to continue to meet, the 20 of them, and provide feedback for each other and pitch practice. And it's just warms my heart. Yeah.
I think what excites me most is how action-based everything is. And it's not just calling out what needs to change, but providing real steps to make some
Thank you for
waves.
saying that. Absolutely true. Yes.
That's everything right now.
We are solution-oriented.
Yeah, solution-oriented.
Yes.
Exactly. Oh, it's been so wonderful chatting with you, Jess.
Same. This has been lovely.
Thank you for having some tea.
Yes.
Can you tell viewers out there what's the best way to stay connected with women in Austin?
Yes. So our website is womenataustin.com. You can go visit there, sign up for our newsletter. That's a wonderful way to keep in touch with us. You can also follow us on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And get involved. Come to an event. Come chat with us. Really, we are, really excited about connecting with the community and helping in any way that we can.
That's amazing.
Yes.
We have to do one more thing.
Let's do it.
The statement sip.
Yes.
Did you bring something?
So one of my favorite quotes or statements, I actually have no idea who said it, but I just love it, is the universe cooperates with a made-up mind.
The universe
cooperates with a made-up mind. So for me, the way I interpret it is that it's really about you and that you have the power. Once you make up your mind for what you want to achieve, the universe will fall into place. It's very, again, action-oriented, I guess.
Yes. I love it. The universe cooperates with a made-up mind. All right, let's I'm going to look at that camera. You're going to look at that
Okay.
camera.
Are we going to say it
We're
at
going
the
to say
same
it at the same time.
Okay.
Okay,
Are we
ready?
gonna cheers?
We'll cheers first. Cheers. And our
Cheers.
statement sip is,
The universe cooperates with a made-up mind.
And that's the tea. This was episode 11. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening or watching. You can follow and subscribe on YouTube. We'll be releasing episodes on Instagram TV, so be sure to stay tuned in. Thanks so much for watching Tea with Abbie. Be sure to click subscribe and smack that like button so you can stay tuned. Smack that like button. See that like button? Smack it. Thanks so much for watching an episode of Tea with Abbie. Be sure to click subscribe and smack that like button so you can stay tuned with new episodes all year long. And if you want to learn more about Blended Scents, visit us at our website, www.blendedsense.com, or follow us on social at Blended Scents or at BlendedScents.io. See you next week.